Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this webinar for standard drafters. Today's webinar will be talking about drafting standards in Microsoft Word and more specifically how to do that more confidently and efficiently. So we would like to thank, first of all, everybody who took the time to fill in our pre-webinar survey. That helped a lot to speakers to draft a bit the content of this webinar. My name is Els, and I will be moderating this webinar in the background as usual. So you might already know that you're all muted during the webinar, so you do not have the possibility to speak out loud, but you can enter your questions in the Q&A panel of this webinar. So you can find that in the properties of the webinar, where you have the possibility to enter your questions should you have any. The presenters will take some time afterwards to look at the questions and reply as many as possible, but they have a lot to tell. So if your question remains unreplied today, we will, as usual, create a Q&A report that we will make available on the website. So now let me take a moment to introduce you, my colleagues who will be telling you all about Microsoft Word today. So yes, we mentioned that, the Q&A panel as we are used to use it. So please take a moment, let's take a moment to introduce Marta and Malise for...
Hello.
Hello, good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here. And well, without further ado, I suppose that, or I suggest that we start right away. So thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to start off today talking about the word ribbon in Microsoft. We're just going to go over a little bit of the vocabulary in it so that we're all on the same page in terms of vocabulary. You understand what we're talking about, but also this will allow you to go on Google, and if you're having an issue, is look for the concept in Google, and it gives you the terminology. Not all of us are native English speakers. Some of us prefer to use Google in Italian or German or French or Estonian. So having these terms in English might help you to Google the term in English, but also understand what we're talking about. So the most important thing is that this is called the Microsoft ribbon. So if you're ever having issues with it, you can Google Microsoft. And then up top, we have the application button, the quick access toolbar, the tab, the contextual tab set, the contextual tab, the question mark is always help. Then we have this dialog box launcher to the right, the in ribbon gallery here, and then the group and the enhanced tooltip. And we're starting this off so that when we're talking about the next couple of points that we're talking about, you understand what we're talking about, and you can use this information for should you have problems in the future and you would like to try and check it yourselves, you can just go ahead and Google that information. Hopefully most of your questions will be answered by the presentation, but unfortunately there's so much to talk about in Microsoft Word that we can't possibly cover everything. So the first thing we're going to talk about is just how to look at your document, essentially. And one of the points is the draft view versus the print layout view. And in the ribbon, you can select view, then print layout or draft. And we're going to do that right now. And we have here a Word document for everyone to see. And right now we're looking at it in the print view, and maybe we don't like looking at it because you have to scroll through and it takes a really long time. And we can just go to view and we can change how we look at this document. So here we're looking at it in the draft view. And this is what happens is that you no longer see the headings and the footers. And this makes it sometimes much more easy to get a very good visual of the document. Oftentimes, or I hope all the time, you're working in the simple template. And maybe you want to copy and paste some of the styles from one section to the other. And in the draft view right now, as it normally is on your computer, you can't really see the styles. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to see the styles in Microsoft Word. So first of all, we're going to go to Home or File. And then we're going to go to Options. And then we're going to go to Advanced. And then we're going to scroll down to Display. And then Style Area, Pane Width, and Draft and Outline Views. And if you change this to 2 centimeters, all of a sudden here on the left-hand side, you can see the different styles that are in the simple template. And you can copy the styles from one area to the other, as Marlies will show you later in this presentation. So just for your information, this information is also in the PowerPoint. So again, Home, Options, Advanced, Display, set the area, pane, width, and draft and outline view field to a value other than 0. So that is right here. So the next thing is viewing content. Depending on how you prefer to look at the document, maybe you want to see all those formatting marks like paragraphs, spaces, the tables, you know, the grid lines that aren't normally visible. Maybe you prefer looking at the document that way, maybe you don't. So I'm just going to show you really fast how to look at that or not look at that. So if we go to Home, if we click here, we can see some of the paragraph marks or not. So here we can see the tabs, the spaces, the paragraph marks, but sometimes it's visually a lot of information and we prefer to look at it a little bit more like that. And then another thing is sometimes we're looking at these tables and we say, this is a lot of information in the table. I need to look at it a little bit more with a little bit more less information. So what I can do is go down to the View Grid Lines on your Home tab, right here in Paragraph. Click on this table, click down View Grid Lines, and then it's gone. And you don't have to look at it, and you can see how it looks without the grid lines. And this removes some of the visual information so that you can see it a little bit more accurately. So Marlies will now talk to you a little bit about tables.
Okay, thank you, Martha. I'm gonna share my screen. So I'm first gonna talk about tables. First, I want to show you about indentation and the use of invisible borders. What we see sometimes is that tabs are used, like here, to create indentation in a table, but you shouldn't be doing that because that creates errors when we produce XML. So what you should do here is create extra cells or extra rows and use invisible borders. There are several ways of doing this. You can select a row, click right, split cells, and then say I want 1 column, 2 rows, click OK. Then you have your 2 rows. Move this down, delete that. And then we will want 2 columns here, split cells, 2 columns, okay. Then we can move this here. And that's how you create the indent. Now you still want to make these borders invisible. You can do that over here at no, I'm wrong, table design. You can use the border painter for that. First say, I want no border. Then you have the border painter. You just say this one. No, that didn't work. And this one, invisible border. There we go. Now let me just undo, show you another way. What you can also do is use draw table to create or to split cells or rows basically. So you click draw table and you just draw a line there. There we go. And then we can do the same here. Oops. And there. That's how you do that. Now, next I want to talk to you about hard returns and soft returns. Therefore, I want to go to this table. Let me just unclick this. We sometimes see that additional returns are used, like these ones, to create space between the lines. But when we run our tools, what happens is they are deleted and it will look like this. Now here, that's not really a problem, but I will show you an example where it is a problem. Let me just make this bigger. So you can see here an additional soft return has been used to make this text go down. So when we run our tools, what happens is this one is deleted and we get this basically. So you see here, it is a problem because, for example, test temperature, the temperature should be on the same line and it isn't anymore. So also in this case, please don't use additional returns, but create rows with invisible borders as I just showed you. Then next, I would like to show you how you convert text into a table. For that, I will go up. I think it's here, yes. So imagine you made a list of abbreviations like here, but you have used tabs, which you shouldn't be doing because that will also create errors when we produce XML. You don't have to create an entirely new table and then copy and paste everything into that. Because it's so nicely formatted with these tabs, we can just copy or select, sorry, go to Insert, Table, and then Convert Text to Table. And then it will automatically detect that we need 2 columns, 6 rows. Click OK, and there's your table. And then we want to make the borders invisible. And another way to do this is to click the entire table, click this one, and then you can do all at once, none. And that's how it should be done. You can also do it the other way around, convert table to text. Really easy. Select the whole table, go to layout, and convert to text here. Now it will ask you, do you want to put tabs between here or semicolons? Well, we will choose tabs. Okay, and we're back. So this is not correct, but it was just to show you. And then the last point, adding rows, columns, and cells. I just showed you how to do that. So we can move on to page breaks, which you will probably mostly need also when you have a table and it's too wide to put it in portrait, and you need a landscape page or more than one page. So how do you do that? You will need to insert page breaks. So imagine we want just this part on a separate landscape page. How do you do that? You click here, you go to layout, breaks, and you choose next page under section breaks. You can delete that. And then go here, do the same thing. Next page, can delete that. And now you see this is on a separate page because it's on a separate section. And then you want to make this page into landscape, which you do under orientation, landscape. And there we go. We have one page in landscape. So let me just undo this real quick. I also want to say something about mat type. So as already showed, the converting text into a table, this could be useful. For example, when you have done this with tabs and you want to convert that to a table with invisible borders. And I will also show you how to insert a new equation, how to number it and style it correctly. I know we always tell you, please use mat type because that is the preferred way, and it will reduce the chance of errors when we convert them to mat type. But we know that not all of you have mat type available, so I will now use the word equation builder. So if you want to insert a word equation, you go to Insert tab, Equation. I will just put example here. Now, how to structure and style them correctly when you number it, because you don't have to number the formula, but when you number it, you just, so insert the equation, put one tab, and then the number, this will be A2. And then we want to style this as formula. Go to the styles pane, look for formula, and there we go. It's nicely styled. You can see it has the indentation here. And yeah, that's basically it, I think. It's back to Martha.
Hello again. So we're now going to talk about inserting figures. So what we're going to do is here we have our document, and we want to insert a figure here. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this, and we're going to go to Insert, Pictures, Insert Picture from this device. And we're going to make sure that we have a folder with all of our pictures inside. So I've already pre-prepared this, but here would be our folder, and here's our picture inside the folder. It's separate from the document to allow us to properly insert the figures into the document. So going into my picture folder, I'm selecting my picture, and then I'm going to click on Insert and Link. And this properly inserts my picture into the document so that when you upload the file on eTrans and submit it to CCMC, your pictures will all be correctly linked. And this can be checked online. So here again are the instructions for you. And here on projects, this is a massive tip for everyone. You can actually check if the figures were properly inserted. And I'm going to go to projects right now to show you. So here we're on projects. And here, if you didn't know this before, this image quality check right here is a great tool to check that everything, that the figure is properly linked and the figure has the proper dimensions in accordance with the Sense and Elect requirements. So basically all you have to do is browse make sure that your figure is that your figure file and your Word document are zipped together. So you just browse, select the zip together file and figures and upload it. And then what happens is you'll get an email, and I can show you the email right here that says, "Dear me, thank you for using the quality check." And then it says, "Congratulations, all relevant figures meet the requirements." And then it also sends you an Excel file, and it shows you a list of the figures with their width, their height, their resolution, and whether the QC is okay. It also has compression, and sometimes this is quite an issue, is whether or not the figure is multiple layers or not. So this is a super tool to help check figures. Another thing that is quite often a little bit tricky is that the figures aren't always correctly scaled to 100%. And we have to correct this because otherwise it causes problems for the XML when the different members convert the XML, for example, to PDF or other formats. If the figures that you send us in the document aren't scaled to 100%, for example, they're only at 50%, when the other members try to create their PDFs or whatever, the scaling is lost in the XML, and then the figure is much larger or not. So that means that we have to rescale the figures if they aren't scaled correctly. And this means that the standards drafters, you all have less control over the outcome of the figures and the document. So what I'm saying is that we do have the ability to rescale the figures, but it might not be in the way that you would prefer. And so for this reason, we really encourage you to have a look at whether or not the figures are scaled correctly to 100% or not. So we're going to go back to the Word file. And we're going to click on the figure, then picture format. And then next to size, this. And here we can see the scale down here. So we have the scale, the height, which is 100%, and the width, which is also 100%. So this is a perfectly scaled picture. If it's not perfectly scaled, what you can do is edit it in a figure editing software like Photoshop or any of the other ones. And again, if it's 100%, then everything's all right. If it's not 100% for the height and the width, then if you do, if you are concerned about how the figures appear in the document, it would be a good idea to redo that. And again, that was picture format, size, and then scale. So another issue that sometimes happens when when you have a very large document and you have like 40, 50, 100 figures in the document is that the document starts to become massive and it gets very slow and it's hard to work with and it's hard to send. So what you can do here is you can actually change the link so that the figure is not saved in the document, but rather just linked to the document. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. We're going to go to File, and then depending on how your Word's set up, maybe also Info. Sometimes you click on File and it goes directly to this Info page. Sometimes you have to click on the Info page. So then we go to Info, and then we go to, very important, Edit Links to Files. And then here is our figure. And we have our figure selected. Sometimes there's more figures, so we'll select more figures. But for our purposes here, all we need to do is select this file and then click on Save Picture and Document. And this will help reduce the size of the document. So we've saved it, and now the size should be reduced. The figure is really small, so it might not make a difference on this file. So again, this is file size and figures, and this is the explanation for when we send around the PowerPoint. We got a tip from another standards drafter on the possibility of exporting figures from PowerPoint. We personally haven't tested this ourselves because we don't have to export the figures. But this is maybe a tip for all of you, is there is a way to export figures from PowerPoint and to configure PowerPoint in such a way that the figures are exported correctly for the Sensenelec figure requirements. This is a link here, which you can follow. And I'm saying that this is an emergency solution for if you don't have a drafting department. The quality of a figure from a drafting department is always going to be better than if you use PowerPoint or another tool to resize the figures. But if you don't have access to a drafting department, this might be a really good solution. So now we're going to move away from figures a bit and talk a little bit about using search. Normally we use search to look for words or whatever, and we use it for relatively simple things, but search can also be used to look for a lot more things. So I'm going to pull up the word again. And search is always Control F on a Windows computer for an English language Windows computer. Sometimes the shortcut keys don't always work from language to language or from Windows to Mac. So it's always a good idea, if it's not working for you, to try to, for example, just Google what the shortcut key might be in another language or using Mac or whatever. So here we have our shortcut tool. Right now it's looking for spaces, which we don't want. Maybe we want to look for a table, because there's an issue with one of the tables in our document. So here, without even seeing the table, it searches all of the tables. Or maybe we want it to look for an equation. Oh, there's no equations in the document. But if there were, it would find them all. Another thing that it can do is, in advanced find, I can look for example, all the non-breaking spaces. And I'm going to use the paragraph so that you can see that, yes, it really is a non-breaking space. You can also use it to look for fonts, which for some TCs is really helpful, especially for Senelec, since variable is used Times New Roman. Sometimes Times New Roman runs a little bit amok in a document, and you can use it to see, oh, is there any Times New Roman in this document? Fortunately, none are found. This is something that the editors often use when working with documents, and something's off with the fonts, is you can go through and look at all the fonts on a document. The next thing that we can look at is, and I see this quite often, is sometimes you have a document and a table and the normal spaces are used and not maybe the non-breaking spaces, which should have been used. So we can use the find and replace. So right here, I'm looking for Oops. I can go through and look for all the non-breaking spaces. So this is a normal space, and then I'm going to go to special, and I'm going to ask for it to look for a non-breaking space, which we have right here. And for some reason, it's not finding the spaces, probably because it's looking for, there we go. It was looking for spaces that are Times New Roman. So always check your options. And if something's not popping up, definitely make sure that you check that. But now it's finding all the spaces. So what I could do here is it's searching for spaces, and I can replace it with non-breaking spaces. So there we go. It's replaced. And of course, I could hit replace all, but then the document would be all messed up. Another thing that could be super useful is non-breaking hyphens. And in this way, now all the hyphens in the document are non-breaking, which means that it won't allow the split of the two words to be on separate pages. So for example, if you have an EN 50,000-3, that 3 can't end up on another page. So again, for using the search, you can use Control F, or you can use the Find button here. And to use search and replace, you automatically come up on the Find, and then you just click on Replace. So that is it for search and replace. Now we're going to move on to superscript and subscript with Marlies.
Yes, thank you, Martha. So I'm going to show you how do you put something in superscript or subscript or raised lowered. So imagine you want to type square centimeters. What you do is you select a 2, go to the Home tab, and here you can find superscript. Just click it and it's in superscript. What you could also do is raise it instead of putting it in superscript, which you do here, advanced, and then position raised. So sometimes you will have something that is lowered, for example, like here, then you will use lowered. Let's do it raised, and it will look like that. So please don't try to put something superscript or subscript by making the font smaller, because when we run our tools, it will turn out to be just like this again. So please use superscript and subscript or raised lowered. Don't use both things for the same item. Then another useful thing is the style inspector. So Martha already showed you that when you go to the draft view here, you can see the styles on the left, but for some things, for example, in tables, you can't see the styles. So what you can do then, let's go back to print layout, is use the style inspector. So you click, for example, this, you want to know which style it is. You click on the Home tab in Styles, click the dialog box launcher, will open the styles. Sometimes you will already see it here. It's style as table header, but if it's not showing up here, you can click the style inspector here. with the magnifying glass. And then this will pop up, oops, and it will also tell you its table header. Let me close that. Next, I would like to show you some useful shortcuts. First of all, the M dash, which you will need, for example, in figure titles, table titles. And there is a shortcut for that. Let me just maybe type one here. So the M dash is just simply Control Alt minus, like that. And the N dash is Control minus. For Mac, that's Option Shift dash and Option dash. You can also arrive at the same result by using Word's auto format. What does that mean? You just let Word do the work for you. For example, you have a word, you type to get to the M dash, the long dash, you type 2 regular dashes, then another word, and then hit space or enter, and it will turn it into a long M dash. And then you will just have to add spaces here. There we go. And also for the smaller dash, the N dash, it's just type word, 1 space, regular dash, 1 space, a word, and then space or enter. And there you go. You can also use the insert and insert symbol, where you would also find these here. Some other useful shortcuts. Martha was talking about the non-breaking space and the non-breaking hyphen. So there are shortcuts for those. It's Control-Shift space, Control-Shift hyphen. And I'm going to show you maybe an example. I just have to find it. Here. So these should all be non-breaking spaces. But so you can have these in a standard reference, but also, for example, let's take this one here, module D. Imagine the line is a bit longer. There we go. And so it makes these two go on different lines, but doesn't really look good. It's not very readable. So what you can do is delete the regular space and just insert a non-breaking space, and then it will keep it together. You can also use the non-breaking hyphen in the same way. I also have an example somewhere. Here we go. So if you want this word, for example, to stay on the same line, you can replace the normal dash there with a non-breaking hyphen, and then it will stay on the same line. And two more useful shortcuts are copy formatting and paste formatting. So copy formatting is Control-Shift-C, paste formatting, Control-Shift-V, which I will show you in the next part. I'm going to talk about this by first fixing a hanging paragraph. You see here in class 6, below 6.1, we have a hanging paragraph because we have heading 2, a paragraph, and then a heading 3. This is not correct. There should be a heading 3 before this hanging paragraph. So we are going to insert a heading 3. How do you do that? You can hit enter here. Type the title of your heading 3. And then we need to style it as heading 3. There are two options of doing this. So as you can see here, you can use the shortcuts. Just go to the existing heading 3. Do Control-Shift-C. Go here, Control-Shift-V. and it will be styled exactly as this one. Now let me undo that and show you the other option. The other option is the Format Painter, which you can find in the Home tab right here. So go to this heading 3, click the Format Painter, and then click this one, and it will be styled as this one. One small warning for both options. There is a difference when you paste formatting, when you click something like a paragraph, or when you select it. So let's see. For example, here we have something in a subscript. So imagine I will copy the formatting of this paragraph. Use the Format Painter. And instead of just clicking this paragraph, I will select it. Then you see this is also the subscript has gone. So just so you know, be careful. So what we should have done is just click it, and it will stay subscript. So just be aware that there's a difference there. And one side note also, apparently map type sometimes causes problems when using the Format Painter to copy styles from one document to another. I have tried it out, and when you use Control-Shift-C and Control-Shift-V, this does seem to work. So I hope that solves some of your issues. And then one last thing I want to show you about formatting is the continue numbering. As you can see here, I copied this part from another document and pasted it into this document, but you can see the numbering is not correct. Well, how do you fix this? You just click right and do continue numbering. And if these are styled correctly, it should be correct like this. So that's formatting. About auto-numbering and fields, you can use auto-numbering and fields in your draft, but they have to be removed before submitting your draft to CCMC. Why? You can see here, when we run our tools, the links are broken, and we don't want that, obviously. So please, when you want to use them, but before submitting the draft, you have to remove them. So how do you remove? And by remove, I mean get rid of the fields, but the text will stay there. Just select the whole document, but avoid selecting the table of contents because it will mess up the table of contents. So if we just go here, press Shift, go all the way down, click. We have selected the entire text, and then we just do Control-Shift F9, and that will flatten all the fields in your document. So get rid of the fields, but keep the text. Then apparently there are some problems with the table of contents, some issues and questions there. So how do you update the table of contents? Normally, all you have to do is click right and update field. There we go. And it will update the titles and the page numbers. If you see there's a problem, or could be that you want, for example, the heading 2, the heading 3 also inserted here. Although we advise not to make the table of contents too long, could be that you want to add another level. How do you do that? You go to References, Table of Contents, Custom Table of Contents, then go to Options, and then you can see here the standard setting for showing the styles into the table of contents. You want to reset that, and then you can choose which styles it should show you. So what it has to show is annex, bibliotitle, put a 1 there. Then the next is forward title. I'm going in alphabetical order, of course. Then the heading's already there. Suppose I don't want to show the heading 3, but I want to show the heading 2. Just delete this. And intro title, that's all we need. Click OK, OK, yes. And then you can see it has added extra levels here. So that's how you do that. Mainly for Senelec, sometimes you may want to insert a table of figures. You don't do that here. You just use this one here, right here. And it works pretty much in the same way. And then the last point, I think, the last topic is the STM and the track changes. I would like to show you first how the editors create the STM. So imagine this document is the document we have been working on. Go to review. Yes. We go to compare. And then the original document will be the document that you have submitted to us. In this case, I will just use a simple template as an original document. So you click the folder here, and then you just go to wherever you have saved the original document. Open. Then the revised document is this one. Go to wherever you have saved it. And then tell Word to show the changes in a new document. Click OK. And there we have it. And that's how we make the STM. Now, a little side note here. When you provide us with a document that has equations made with the Word equation builder and not MATtype, we convert those to MATtype, and it's very important that you use the STM to see if during the conversion nothing went wrong. So you can use the STM for that. So you can see, of course, many changes here. It could be when we send you the STM that you open it and you don't see anything. This is just blank. That is because there are so many formatting changes sometimes that it's too much to show. What you can do then is unclick formatting. And then it will show you only the changes, only the deletions, the additions, and not the formatting changes. And that might help. It might be easier to go through it. And then what else do we have here? You can, now it's showing all markup, so all changes. You can also click no markup, and then you would see the document as if all changes would have been accepted. So it's the clean document. Click to all markup, or you can see the original. You can also do that. So here you can go to next change, next change, next change. You can also at show markup say I only want to see this person or this person. Now it's only me, of course, but could be that when you're working on a draft that several people have made changes there and you want to see only the changes of one person, you can do that there. What else is here? Maybe just the reviewing pane. This will pop up sometimes when you don't want it to. It will look like this. You can just close it here or click that and it will be gone. And that's it for track changes, I think. Yes, and before we close, I think we have a little bit of time for questions. I just want to point out where you can find the simple template and the Senelec standard template. The links will be there when you get the slides. Please also remember that there is a lot of information on the Sen and Senelec BOS, which you can use. And of course, when in doubt, don't hesitate to get in touch with us, with the editors, with production. Or of course, when you have a technical or a procedural question, you can get in contact with your PM. And that's it.